Hi everyone and welcome to the tutorial. Today we'll be demonstrating how to work a garter tab cast on. I've described my Uradler shawl to just give you an idea of what a garter tab is. So a lot of shawls are knit from the top down, and a lot of them also have a garter stitch border which stops the edges of the shawl from rolling. So you've got this straight top edge, and then the bottom edge of the shawl will curve or be pointed, which turns it into a triangular shape. But those shawls that are knit from the top down very often start here, and it's this little wedge of fabric here where you can't see where one edge starts and the other ends. This bit here is the garter tab. So that's done by casting on a small number of stitches, working rows back and forth this way, and then turning the work around, knitting across those stitches again, picking up stitches in the side of the knitting, and then picking some up from the cast on edge, and then you work in this direction. I'm going to show you how I do a lot of my garter tab cast ons, which is a 3-stitch cast on, working 7 rows and then picking up 3 stitches in the side, which will give you 9 stitches in total. You need to be really careful what your particular pattern is telling you to do, how many stitches it asks you to cast on, how many rows of garter stitch it asks you to work, and then how many stitches it asks you to pick up on each side, because that will impact very greatly on what your stitch counts when you start to work the shawl are. So let's get started. So I'm going to start my garter tab cast on with the long tail cast on method. So I'm going to leave, you don't need a very long tail for this because we're only casting on just a couple of stitches. I'm going to wrap the tail end of my yarn around my left thumb and the yarn coming from my skein or ball over my index finger. I'm going to bring my needle up and into the loop of yarn around the thumb, and then over and under the yarn around my index finger, draw the loop through and pull everything to tighten to create 1 stitch, and we'll do that again. If you need a more in-depth tutorial on how to work the long tail cast on method, I have a video called long tail cast on method, so check that out if you'd like more detailed instructions. So I've got my 3 stitches. As I said, make sure to check how many stitches your pattern asks you to cast on. It might ask for less and it might ask for more. I'm now going to knit 7 rows of garter stitch over these stitches. So we turn it around, and just as you normally knit a flat piece of knitting, we'll knit across them. So that's 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows. This doesn't take very long because you're only working it over a couple of stitches. 4th row, and as I said, just make sure you work the number of rows of garter stitch that your pattern asks you to. Row 5, row 6, and this is going to be row 7. If you lose track of how many rows you've worked, you can count your garter stitch ridges. So every row of ridges, or these purl bumps, indicates 2 rows of garter stitch. So I can count 2, 4, 6. So I know I need to work 1 more, and that'll be 7. Now my instructions say at the end of the 7th row, do not turn work. So I don't want to turn my needles around this way, I just want to leave them like this. What I'm now going to do is rotate my work 90 degrees clockwise, and I'm going to pick up stitches into each of these garter ridges. So we'll pick up a knit, right there into the sort of pell bump that's there, and knit. Go into the next one, pick up a knit, and into the last garter ridge that's there. I usually like to pick up that bit of the stitch there, so this bit here. And knit. So you might see what's starting to happen. First of all, we were just knitting a really thin strip, and now we're turning it into a more substantial shape with the stitches running along the bottom edge of that shape. So I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. So I'm now going to rotate my work 90 degrees again and pick up and knit 3 stitches along my cast on edge just here. So you can do this however you like, just make sure that it looks neat once you've done. So sometimes it can take a couple of tries, but I like to go really into those cast on stitches. And that's my garter tab all done. So as I said before, I'll just say it once again, these numbers are very specific to how I'm doing it for the demonstration. You need to check carefully what your pattern says and how many stitches it asks you to pick up and knit and cast on, etc. But that's the garter tab cast on all done. I'm now ready to start working across these stitches flat, turning my work back and forth, maybe working increases along the sides and down the center. And I'll just grab that shawl again and show you that this section here started out looking just like this garter tab here. So that's the garter tab cast on method. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions or comments, do leave them below.